right, welcome to Talking Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. This is a weekly edition, weekend update. I want to take a look at the chart of what happened to the Bitcoin miners this week. We're also going to take a look at the Bitcoin chart itself and see what happened there. I have several other charts for you that I want to take a look at. So there's a lot to go through. I just want to take a moment and say thanks. We did just break through 19,000 subscribers, so we are aiming for 20,000 subscribers. We've been going at this for 3 years. We're getting very close. So if you're new to the channel or you have not yet subscribed, if you're interested in Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, lastly, if you could smash the like button. We're going for 500 likes. You guys have been unbelievable at hitting the like button, and it really does help out the channel and the video so much. So, okay, with all that said, thanks so much. Let's get going. Okay, so here's the good news. We have a green chart for this week. It has been almost a month since we've had a green chart for the Bitcoin miners on the weekly time frame. So we did have some relief, so congratulations. Hopefully this helped everybody's portfolio a little bit. So let's take a look at what happened on the 1 week time frame. Over the course of the last month, we've been looking at the Bitcoin miners really taking a strong move to the downside. They have been lagging Bitcoin in a big way, and this tends to ebb and flow. So all of a sudden this week, we actually have a big reversal of that. So if we take a look at the 1 week chart, you're going to see Bitcoin, as always, in gold, up 1% week over week. So not a big move for Bitcoin. We will take a look at the Bitcoin chart. It was actually some big movements to the downside and then all the way back up. So while there was gigantic swings from week over week, this was actually very little movement, just up 1% for Bitcoin. Yet if we look at the rest of this entire chart, it is green with the exception of one Bitcoin miner. So most of the Bitcoin miners drastically outperformed Bitcoin itself this week. And this is only the beginning of reversing the trend that's been going on for the last month. So even with this big green week, we're going to take a look at some charts later. The Bitcoin miners still need to move up quite a bit to catch up to what Bitcoin's done over the course of the last month. Having said that, this was a good week. So if we go to the top of this list, you're going to see DigiHost was up 27%. That was the leader. So there's actually 4 Bitcoin miners up 22%. TeraWulf, Hut, Any, and Argo Blockchain. Then you have Bitdeer up 19%. And it's worth noting, remember, Bitcoin was up 1%. So almost all the Bitcoin miners were up 10% or more. Riot was up 10%. Marathon was up 11%. Marathon is the largest Bitcoin miner by market cap by quite a bit. Riot is in second. Those both had a decent, strong week to the upside. BitDigital up 11. Bitfarms up 11. CleanSpark was up 17%. So you can see, I'll let you find your Bitcoin miner on this chart. There were a few Bitcoin miners that lagged the rest, but there was only one in the red. So Iris Energy was actually down 1% this week. That was the only Bitcoin miner in the red. Having said that, Gree was only up 1%. That was on par with what Bitcoin did. And Cypher up 3%, Mawson up 4%, and Hive up 5%. Those really lagged. All the rest of the Bitcoin miners did much better than those. So there was a small group that did lag, but even most of those were green on the week. To sum up, to take a look at this week, most of the miners were up between 10 and 20% on a week where Bitcoin was up 1%. Okay, having said that, I'm just going to quickly take a look at this chart because it's a little bit of a duplication for something we're going to dig into more later. But even with this big green week this week, if we go year to date, so we're only 4 weeks into the year, you're going to see the Bitcoin miners are all still in the red, mostly deeply in the red. So BitDigital's down 13%. That's the leader. Then you've got a couple down 20%, Bitfarms and Stronghold. Most of these are still down between 25 and 35%. Some of them even in the 40s. So you can see, even with the gigantic green up week this week, this year to date, and we're not even out of January yet, the Bitcoin miners are still very red. Again, we're going to take a look at a chart very similar to this that shows you it's even actually a little bit worse than this for the Bitcoin miners over the last really 1 month. Okay, but before we do that, I want to go to this chart. There's 3 different time frames I'm looking at with the Bitcoin miners. The Bitcoin miners all hit a local high in July of 2023. They then all fell off of those highs in August and September. Those were difficult months for the Bitcoin miners. It took them all the way until December 27th of 2023 really to set new highs. So those are 2 of the time frames I'm going to look at. Okay, so the important thing to note on this is, as always, you're going to see Bitcoin in gold. Bitcoin's up 39% from its highs from the summer of 2023. So Bitcoin has had a significant move to the upside. 2023 was a fantastic year for Bitcoin. So far, 2024 has been basically pretty much sideways for Bitcoin. A lot of volatility to the up and the downside, but it's left us pretty much right where we started. Most of these Bitcoin miners are still not back to their summer highs from July 13th or July 14th of 2023. So there's only 4 Bitcoin miners that are in the green since that date. Bitfarms up 18%, CleanSpark up 16%. So those are two of the larger ones. And then you have two of the smaller ones. Argo Blockchain up 11% and DMG up 10%. All the rest of the Bitcoin miners are in red, meaning they are not yet back to their summer highs from when Bitcoin was at around $32,000. So that's the top of the list. If we take a look at the bottom of this list, you're going to see HUT is down 59% from its highs in July. TeraWulf is down 52%. GREE is down 50%. 8 of these stocks are down 40% or more from their July highs. So that means there's significant moves to the upside, nearly a double for a lot of these stocks, just to get back to where they were last July. There's one big thing I want to point out on this chart. There's two companies that all of 2023 basically were pretty much neck and neck for the largest by market cap out of the Bitcoin miners, and they were Marathon and Riot. Over the last few months, Marathon and Riot have gone in different directions. About 2.5 months ago, Marathon passed Riot as the largest Bitcoin miner by market cap. You'll see Marathon on this chart down just 1%. So it's very near its highs from the summer. And then you're going to see Riot all the way down here. Riot's 41% off of its highs from July of 2023. So those two companies have gone in different directions. So Marathon has been a very strong performer. Yes, it's still in the red, but it's only down 1%. And you can see there's only 4 Bitcoin miners that are in the green on this time frame. Okay, now let's take a look at what I consider my second price target for a lot of these Bitcoin miners. So on December 27th, pretty much every single Bitcoin miner hit their high for the year of 2023. This is just almost exactly 1 month ago. That was from December 27th until Friday, January 26th. All of the Bitcoin miners are in the red, and they're in the red big time. Most of them are down between 40 and 55%. At the same time, at the top of this list, you're going to see Bitcoin in gold down only 3%. So you can see in the last month, Bitcoin has not moved very much. It's down 3%. The best performing Bitcoin miner on this list is DigiHost, and it's down 28%. That's a nano cap stock, as is DMG, down 31%. By the time you get to one of the mid-size or larger Bitcoin miners, you have to go to Bitfarms, down 34%. That's actually the best performing stock over the last month of the top 10 Bitcoin miners. So again, we sit in a situation where for most of these companies, they need to have somewhere between an 80 to 100% move to the upside just to get back to where they were last month. So this is a price target that I'm looking at. I do not believe every single Bitcoin miner is going to recover. We're less than 3 months away from the halving. I have been saying for the last year that I do think there are going to be winners and losers in the Bitcoin mining space. So as we look at these charts, just remember, I'm looking for opportunities in here. I'm looking for strong companies. I'm looking for companies that operationally have been performing very well, but whose stock has been beaten up with all the rest of these stocks. You can see as a group, these stocks have been pretty much decimated over the last month. So for those companies that are going to succeed, I do think this is creating some buying opportunities. That's not to say that we've hit a bottom yet. And of course, none of this is financial advice. I'm not recommending that you guys buy or sell any of these stocks. I do think these charts can be helpful to point out some potential opportunities that sit in here. So I try to show the Bitcoin miners in as many different ways with as many different charts as I can. And hopefully by looking at it in these different ways, it allows you guys to maybe see something that you would not have otherwise seen. Okay, lastly, very quickly, this chart compares Friday to November of 2021. So this was well over 2 years ago. This was the peak for Bitcoin. Bitcoin hit its all-time high in November of 2021. Most of the Bitcoin miners hit a local high or their all-time high at that same time. So you're going to see all of the Bitcoin miners are still down very dramatically from that point. At the top of this list, again, is CleanSpark, down only 66%. I say only 66%, but that means this stock needs to significantly more than double just to get back to where it was. A lot of these need to triple, quadruple, or more to get back to where they were. You're going to see a lot of these stocks are down over 90%. I will say it's not fair to look at Core Scientific. I should take that off of this list. Core Scientific went into Chapter 11. They've come out of Chapter 11, so their stock conversion is not really apples to apples, so I really would not pay too much attention to this 94% on Core Scientific. But for the rest of these, HUT is legitimately down 89%, TeraWulf's down 95%, Any down 96%, Mawson down 97%, Stronghold down 98%. Now, I happen to think the market is clearly very worried about those stocks, and like I said, I do think not every single Bitcoin miner is going to make it and thrive and hit new all-time highs post-halving, and we are less than 3 months away from the halving. So looking at this chart from the perspective that there will be winners and losers, I still do think there's some massive opportunity inside of this chart for some of these Bitcoin miners. I want to take a quick look at one of these Bitcoin miners just to put in perspective what type of move to the upside has to happen just for these stocks to get back to their previous all-time highs. And again, there's no guarantee that they will get back to their all-time highs. That's for you to decide. I want to just do this real quickly, just so that you guys can understand if these recover, what a potential move to the upside that would represent. Okay, so this is the TeraWulf chart. You see TeraWulf trading at about $1.69 right now. If I go back to December of 2021, and that's actually when they IPO'd, they were SPAC prior to that, so there were some price targets above that, but even if I just go back to the 35 and change that they were trading in December of 2021, that would be almost a 2,000% move to the upside. So you can see what a drastic move it would be if some of these companies can recover, even if it takes 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years. A 2,000% move to the upside, that's a 20x. In the previous Bitcoin mining cycle, we did have some stocks that 20 or 30 or 40x'd by the time we reached the peak of the cycle. So we don't know if that'll happen, right? Obviously, none of this is financial advice. I did just want to show graphically what type of opportunity is potentially out there for some of these stocks that are down, between 80 and 98%. Lastly, I want to just take a quick look at Bitcoin on the one-day time frame. So I've circled the last 1 week. You'll see on Monday, we had a gigantic red candle to the downside. We broke out of this line at around 41,200. This had been a strong line of support dating back to December 11th. And it looked like maybe we were going to take a big move to the downside, but actually after a few days of consolidation, we've jumped right back up above this line. We've been trading between 41,000 and 44,000 for the most part for about the last couple of months. We did have a breakout to the upside that turned out to be a fake out, and now it looks like we've had a breakout to the downside that may have been a fake out. I will tell you, as I look around, if I look at the technicals, they are very ambiguous right now. I have watched a lot of other YouTubers. I see just as many people predicting a big move to the upside as I do predicting another move to the downside. I see a lot of price targets at 38,000, 34,000. I'm not sure about any of those. We've been talking on the channel for a long time. We have a purple line at just under 38,000. I would not be surprised even still to see a retest. However, I will say it's very, very ambiguous right now. This is the ultimate case for the dollar cost averaging strategy because in the short term, it's been very, very confusing. There's been massive volatility, but ultimately, if you are bullish on Bitcoin and you do think it's heading higher places, if you do think it's going to hit its all-time high and then break out and hit a new all-time high, then all of this in retrospect, maybe a year from now when we look back, will all be just short-term noise. Again, this is not financial advice. All right, so that's what I got for you guys on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. It was a pretty sideways week with a lot of volatility for Bitcoin, and it was a very green up week for the Bitcoin miners. So let's hope there's more of that ahead. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.